Despite years of coach builders building their own, it was a long time before Mercedes-Benz actually made an estate car in-house.
Of course, being Mercedes-Benz products of the time, comparable probably only to the Volvo 240, these are probably the most sought-after estate cars ever built, with values going only one way. Up. The only way, baby.
The two cars that really cemented Mercedes' reputation as market leader in this segment was the S123 and the S124, both technically E-Class.
But if you're buying one today, what's the best one for you? Not necessarily the best car in general, but the best one for you. Well, luckily for you, viewer, we hoard old Mercedes and we've got one of each, so let's find out. S, you say? Like S Express?
That's right, the act behind the hit song theme from S Express. S was the internal designation for an estate car. Don't ask me why, because I don't know. Maybe it means something in German, but this was an S123, S124, even that's an S211. We continued that to this day. W was for Wagen, which was for a car, a saloon car. C for coupe, R for roadster, stuff like that.
Yes, that's right. Contrary to popular belief, T in 300 TD or 240 TD stood for touring, not turbo. That's right, Mr. American commenter who thinks that his 300 TD has a turbo diesel because it's called a 300 TD. No, they were called the 300 TD-T or the 240 TD-T. In fact, I don't think they ever did a turbo with the 240, but you get my drift. I don't know why either, it's just the way it is.
Anyway, back to the cars themselves. This is the 123, as we mentioned. So this was the original and of course the best.
Debatable.
This has the advantage of being the one everyone wants and the disadvantage of being the one everyone wants. Of course, these are the older of the two. They're kind of more chromy, they're kind of more like the traditional Mercedes that everyone knew for years. They were immensely popular when they came out. I mean, they didn't sell these in the Middle East, but they're all in the Middle East now, so you see them in every,
whether you like it or not.
Every news report from the Middle East has these driving about.
Okay, now don't get me wrong, as the resident 124 wagon owner here, I have to admit, even I think the 123 is the far cooler car of the two. For different reasons, they both have the pros and cons, as we'll get into now, but don't think when we start this video, just because I am the one who owns that, doesn't mean I don't absolutely love that.
So, what's so good about the 123?
As I just said, there now, if you were listening, style. I mean, this is cooler than that. You drive this thing down the street, heads roll. I mean, as Conor will probably say later on, because I can't really remember what we wrote in the script, this turns heads everywhere it goes. I followed behind this, and every person that sees it is like, that. You stop at a petrol station in this, you're probably going to buy the diesel because it's a diesel, but everybody wants to talk to you about how they had one back in the day or how cool they are. It's kind of what we said about the Mark II behind us. It's the same sort of thing with this, that personally I found you don't quite get as much with that. If I didn't put stupid wheels on that and lower it, it wouldn't get any looks at all. It just blends in. This is the car to get if you want to ooze style.
Another major advantage of this over this is how simple this is. These were really a step up from these. They were a different era, nearly. Like mechanically, these
different kettle of fish altogether now.
Mechanically, these are. There's nothing to go wrong. There's no crank sensor. There's barely any. It'll run without a battery. Name me, even the diesel these days will not run without a battery.
Well, they'll run. They just won't run for very long.
Not for very well or for very long. There's literally just a mechanical pump there, which is like a little mini engine, and it throws some diesel in, and hopefully it goes bang, and it does usually go bang. Not. But honestly, like in terms of simplicity, there's just nothing here. There's not even an engine.
It is a heart.
A beating heart. No, it honestly, like, if you want to work on these yourself, this is probably the one to go for. Just because it's so simple. Not that those are very much more complicated, but they are more complicated than this.
Durability. There's a reason that when Top Gear went to Bolivia and did the big special, they took one of these. He knew it would get there, he knew it would get through the desert, he knew it would get home.
I think you mean Botswana.
What was in Bolivia?
The Land Cruiser and all.
Oh, aye. He could have took one of these as well.
He could have, yeah. He could have done better.
Either got stuck, but they'd been fine. Anyway, No, there's a reason these are like, they're all exported once they're too rusty here to do anything more. If you go on the Google Maps, we played a game one day where we just went to random countries in Google Maps and tried to find Mercedes sitting around. Yes, we're that sad. And when we went to the likes of Africa and stuff, these were everywhere. Like in the most recent Grand Tour Special, actually, they showed just all these random bollocks Mercs just driving around. Like, they don't die. So if you want something that's not going to leave you stuck, get a 123.
So the next advantage of this is parts prices. Now they made something like 2 million 123s, maybe just over actually. So they made a lot of spare parts to go with them. As a result, a lot of people have them as well, and aftermarket parts are available, but their quality can be questionable.
Wouldn't bother my whole with any Lemforder anyway.
No sir.
Despite what everybody fucking says. Don't listen to them.
So yeah, parts. I mean, like if you go and buy yourself a Hispano Suizer, you're not getting parts for it. Like
A what?
a Hispano Suizer.
The fuck's one of them?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, fair enough.
You're not getting parts for it. But for one of these, you are. Most things are still available. The only thing you're starting to sort of not get is interior trim, and that's one point actually. The seats in these, they're the old style, like springy horsehair things. And the seats in those are much better, but don't tell him. Yeah, the interior bits are getting difficult to find because everyone hoarded them, I think. That's my theory anyway. But other than that, yeah, parts availability is very good, which is always a plus if you are living with an old car, which you're planning to.
Then people who watch this are probably going to be saying, them boys is just saying the same stuff they said for the old Mark II Golf in that last video. Well, maybe there's a reason that we have Mark II Golfs and old Mercedes. They are very similar, yes. One for me with this, and the Mark II GTI definitely has it as well, is snobbery and lack thereof is probably a better way to put that. You can arrive anywhere in this. Nobody's going to judge you. Nobody thinks you're an asshole driving something like this. They look at it. They might think you're an asshole if you're driving at 45 miles per hour on a 60 road and you're holding everybody back. But I mean, it could be worse. You could be a cyclist. Truth is, this thing is just as at home outside our house, outside a corner shop, as it is parked outside a casino in Monte Carlo. It looks in place anywhere it goes. Nobody's going to judge you for driving something like this.
So enough of what's good about this car. What's bad? What would make you not want to? Well, not even not want to. Number one, price of entry. These are getting expensive now.
Especially compared to what it's parked beside.
Yes. If you were weighing these two up, I mean, you're going to get one of these a lot cheaper than this. Good estate. I mean, estates seem to be the most sought after since we're looking at estates today. Estates are the ones that people seem to want. I can't think why, because they leak like hell, which is another.
And most people who are buying them are just going to park it up, take it out sunny days anyway. You don't need that estate. You're not going to take it to the tip.
You might as well have the saloon. I take this car to the tip, and the people at the tip say, that car should be in the shed.
Is that what they say, Connor?
They said, boys would have them mint. Okay.
You're running that thing into the fucking ground. But
this is not quite mint, but it's not rough either. Well, it's rough, but it's not. Anyway, never mind that. A good estate now could stand you probably close to 20 grand. I mean, people ask like 40 for them, but that's absurd anyway. No one's paying that. But you could end up paying 15, 16, 17 for an estate in really good condition now.
What did you pay for yours?
Mine was cheap. I traded an Abarth for this. So I think the price was 3.5 grand, but it needed work. I'd had to do the SLS sunroof. I've changed the sunroof cassette, the ball joints, bits and pieces like that. So it wasn't. It was MOT'd, which is fantastic, but it wasn't like a pristine example, you know. I think 3.5 grand is probably fair enough for a rough usable one.
And how do you feel about going from the Abarth to this?
Oh, fantastic. Best decision I ever made. Not buying it.
We'll not tell your girlfriend you said that, but alright.
Why?
Surely you should say that she was the best decision you ever made. But let's just gloss over that. Loss of brownie points.
Yeah, fair enough. No, the price of entry in these is definitely, it's getting more difficult by the day. You have to find somebody who doesn't think they're going to rip everyone off with it. Because people pull these out of shed now and they're like, oh, they're worth money. Let's slap a 10 grand price tag and some fucking dust on it and be like, it's barn find.
So it's fucked when it went in the barn. I don't buy it. Fucked when it comes out of the barn.
They're not worth 10 grand. They're not 10 grand's worth of car. But then again, that's the whole other debate. I mean, nothing's worth any more than anyone will pay for it, really, is it?
We've learned that recently. We'll not say why on video, but we've learned it.
So yeah, price of entry is a negative point for these compared to those.
Next on the list, in particular for this model, is leaks.
Well, now hold on here. Are you saying your 124 doesn't leak?
No, it doesn't.
Really? Because mine does.
Yeah, but yours isn't mine.
All right, okay. Mine are all Friday cars, is it?
Mine was Tuesday.
Oh yeah, it was the best day of the week.
I don't actually know. Maybe they were excited knowing they were going to get a good deal of Domino's later that night, so they put a lot of effort into building mine.
2 for 2.
Anyway, shut up.
Yeah.
Leaks. You're just angry because I'm talking negatively about your car. Leaks. If you want to look for leaks in the W123 estate, you start at the back badge and you just make your way forward. Let's think of all the places that Conor's car leaks, shall we? It leaks in through here, which is why, if you have a look... Should I actually just go around and point out?
No, don't show them that.
This is why this entire back panel here just isn't on anymore, because he just knew it would get destroyed from the water leaking through. The worst place you could possibly be in the W123 is in this seat right here. And why is that, ladies and gentlemen? Because this motherfucker right here leaks like a goddamn sieve. And if you come in here, where this light here, the courtesy light is, which you can just pull out like that, that thing when it rains might as well be a fucking tap. It leaks like a sieve. Now that is not to say that all of them leak, because of course they fucking don't. You buy a good one, you won't have to worry about that. But chances are, if you're on our channel, you're not interested in good ones. You'd be going to bloody House Garage with that fella who fixes Lamborghinis for people and talks weirdly. And we're not going to make any friends on YouTube, are we?
Nope.
Anyway, you're probably looking at their channel for pristine ones. We are the rough and ready people who daily them. And fact of the matter is, if you're going to buy one at our kind of budget, it's going to leak. So either be prepared to buy a load of silicone, or prepare to wear a plastic Mac when you're plastic Mac, I sound like
Mac tonight.
It's because they're listening to Wings and Mamuni says strip off your plastic Mac. Anyway, it leaks like a sieve, so just be prepared.
Was he slow?
Yes.
Yes, he was. And that is another disadvantage of this compared to the later cars.
Don't be thinking that's a rocket either, no?
It's not, but it's quicker than this. Now, you could get these in a 280. You could get a 280 estate, but a 280 estate is only as fast as a 230 124, which is not, it's not slouch. It's not, struggling to keep up or anything, but it's not, you're not going to be knocking anybody's socks off in these cars, especially not the 240D, which is glacial.
That's a good word.
So
like the cherries.
Yeah.
Oh, you meant
like a big bit of ice moving at about 2 meters a year, sort of thing. Yeah, no, they're not rocket ships. So if you are in it for going quick, this is the wrong one for you. You look elsewhere. Even with those, look elsewhere. They didn't get very fast.
We should also point out that none of these, just speaking about performance and stuff like that, none of these came with a turbo diesel in right-hand drive form.
No.
Same as those. Those never came as a turbo in right-hand drive form. Something to do with the steering column, I think.
Steering column wouldn't fit. But I mean, even then, they were... these were some of the first cars to have turbo diesels. They weren't quick either. They were a little bit faster than this.
Boys be hearing turbo diesel in this country and they'll be thinking, Jesus, you'll fly in the TDI, but you won't fucking go anywhere fast in the 240D, whether it has a turbo or not. There are aftermarket kits available, but it's probably just for a bit more usability rather than fast.
A bit more blow your engine up very quickly, usually, because they're not designed to take turbos and then they just die.
If the world thought like Conor and thought nothing could be modified.
I think things can be modified. I just know that there's a risk. Your engine's going to blow up if you put a turbo on it, and it wasn't meant for it. So, whatever.
The next elephant in the room is also relevant to my car, so let's not think I'm just picking on Conor here, but the next thing is rust. Mercedes love to rust. Now, I will say this is maybe a wee bit more sturdy than the 124s are when it comes to rust proofing, but the thing is, these are much, much simpler design. There's a lot less crevices and nooks and crannies for water to catch and to rot it out, so maybe that's the case. But I mean, you're going to get rust around the windows, especially in an estate. The back here is a place that really needs to be looked at. I don't think Conor did. The tailgate, for example, if you come around here, let's just show everybody how bad yours is, Conor.
Oh yes.
Love you. Yeah, you've got rust here, you've got rust all along here. In fact, you know what? Here's one we prepared earlier. Long-time viewers of the channel might remember this one. This was the one we got in Mayo a long time ago. It was the cheapest 123 on the market. And fuck, was that a mistake? Sorry, Connor. As you can see, this shows where they can really go. And this is what happens if you buy a bad one.
That's all fillers. Yeah.
Like, there's just...
We have a video about finding the rust in this car, which is really good. And it's really funny. You should actually just watch it.
We've always said that's our favourite video.
Best video we did, yeah.
But this is a sign of how bad things can get. Now, I don't know if...
Don't look at it.
You don't want to say underneath? Like... There is... I can see the sky through that. Genuinely, there is sunlight on my fingertip there.
Weight reduction, bro.
You know, this is what happens when you buy a bad one. So,
Don't
either do a lot of research or ask somebody who knows about them to come with you to look at them. I mean, feel free to send us a message anytime if you want to like find out where to look and stuff if you're looking to buy one. But yeah, again, when they're bad, they are bad.
Yeah. Take a look at this, right? Makes the car very, very comfortable, but it means it feels like a classic car to drive. And I mean, it's not boaty per se. It feels sturdy enough on the road, but definitely not as sure of itself as one of those. So if you want something to potter around in that's quite comfortable, this is fine. But a lot of people will prefer that to drive just because it's a bit easier to get into and transition from a modern car, I think. So it's not necessarily a disadvantage, but it kind of is. So classic feel, modern feel.
Which leads us to modern feel. Yes, let's have a look at the W124. Let's take a look at the S124, because I know somebody's going to call me in the comments for saying it's a W. Ladies and gentlemen, let's present to you the masterpiece.
I'm sitting on possibly the best family car ever made. Now, that's a bold statement, but I think it's warranted here. This was the 124 series Mercedes, and it was made from the mid-1980s all the way up until 1996 when they replaced it with the W210 or S210 of the same E-Class vintage. This car became the E-Class. It wasn't really technically an E-Class until the facelift of these.
Until that one behind him.
Till that,
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Sorry, David.
So this is the 124.
Look, it's been said time and time again about how the W124 was the greatest car ever made. Oh, it was made by engineers, not accountants. As been said a million times over, I don't need to wax lyrical about it here again. We're here to talk about what can be bad about the 124, but also good about the 124. You will notice that most people who are on YouTube spouting that this is the greatest thing since sliced garlic bread, because fucking sliced garlic bread is so good.
Pretty good, like it.
Ah, so good. Anyway, they've borrowed it for a day. They've driven it for a day, and they were making a YouTube video based on that. Conor and I here have been driving 124 Mercedes for the last, how long has it been?
5-6 years maybe.
5-6 years, every day. We know what they're like to live with. We know nothing is perfect. Mercedes may have decided to call this the masterpiece, and yes, I'm saying that with a look on my face. We will get to that later on, because it's just fucking ridiculous. But they are damn good, but nothing is perfect. That seems to be a mantra on this channel, that nothing is perfect. It's not, but we'll get into that. But first of all, let's look at what's good about the 124.
These cars were a fairly big departure from the 123s that came before them. Most of the chrome has been ditched. They're a lot more 80s looking, whereas that's a bit more 70s looking. Something strange called aerodynamics was employed in the making of, or the design of these, compared to these. But to look at them, they're blatantly related. You know, there is a family resemblance here, and it's not just the grille and the badge. There's something more than that. They do kind of...
I'm not like other comparisons.
Something very, very familial about them.
Is that like a Lazia?
Yeah, there's something flaminial about them.
Are they rotten?
No.
The main point for me for loving the 124 more than the 123, despite the fact that I said at the start the 123 was always my favourite, this is just so much more refined than a 123. Now, I know a Mercedes is a Mercedes, and at that time there was best or nothing, and that's the way they are now, and that's the way it will always be. Fuck BMW.
Yes.
Sorry. But the fact of the matter is, if you hop into this, after hopping into the 123, this is whisper quiet. You can have a conversation at any speed. Everything's less rattly, hang on, maybe the problem is actually year 1, 2, 3.
Well, my 123 doesn't rattle, but you can hear the engine. But it is a diesel. It'd be interesting to see what the petrols are like.
Well, we've driven the petrol 1, 2, 3.
Well, yeah.
What's the same, really? But this thing here, so this is a 6-cylinder diesel. It's an OM 603. We took this on the motorway last night doing speeds, and you can still have a conversation no matter what speed you were doing. We did a decibel test and it measures the same as a modern car. Now the thing is, as has been said before, this just seems normal, and that's more of a testament to the fact that 40 years ago this was what is good now. And when you get that sort of ballpark into your head that you could hop into this and use it every day and it doesn't feel like a compromise compared to a modern car, that is pretty groundbreaking stuff for 1985.
Yeah.
God, that was good. Would have guessed. This is a 1991, but like, you hop into anything else 1985 from the time that doesn't have the spirit of ecstasy on the bonnet, or Rolls Royce, if you don't know.
Yeah.
There's no comparison. Hop into a Mark II Golf and then hop into this. No comparison. This thing is so comfortable, so refined, so quiet. Everything about it just oozes usability. That's a really wank statement, but we'll leave it in because I can't think of anything else better. But just know that I need to work on the script.
As we've mentioned, and it's not a cop-out, because we have mentioned it, but these perform better than those. Just look.
Just in general, or in any kind of like test, or...
Well, I mean, it'd be a bit remiss if it wouldn't. You know, it was they built a car after that one that didn't perform as well as it. So they kind of had
to many car manufacturers these days, Connor, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of had to be better. Look at this. For example, this shining lump of performance here. This this beacon of diesel power. How many horsepower is this? Let's not answer that anyway.
I don't actually know. I read it down. I think it's like 180.
That's quite good, really. This is a 6-cylinder inline 6 diesel engine.
I bet you it's nowhere near 180, but
seems not right.
Or maybe 120.
Could be,
but just because it's so heavy, it doesn't feel fast.
Big one anyway. A large lump. These cars, I mean, if you are so inclined, you can buy a 500e. Not an estate, really, but it's semantics, isn't it? You can buy a 500e with shape. Lifts up the road.
All right. That's her last name. Semantics.
Ticks.
Back onto the engine.
Anyway, you can buy a 500D that'll do 0 to 60 in 5.5 seconds, which is still reasonably fast today. I mean, even in this even in the world of 2 point whatever second Teslas or whatever, like that's 5 seconds is still plenty. Like,
where would you be going in any more time than that, or any less time than that?
She'd fly to the moon in 2.5 seconds. This is a lovely smooth 6-cylinder engine. You couldn't get a 6-cylinder diesel in the 123. You get a 5-cylinder, which is fine. But it's not as smooth.
Which is fine.
It's fine, but it's not as smooth as one of these. If it goes kind of hand in hand with the refinement, but if that's what you're after, it's got to be one of these. You know, fast and comfy. 124. The petrol engines in these, you know, we're kind of talking about this. The 230 petrol engine is fantastic in my opinion. A lot of people kind of like shit on it a wee bit because it's not the 6-cylinder and it's not the later multi-valve engines, but I mean, I wouldn't touch the multi-valve engines because they all had the wiring loom problems, and
which we'll get to.
Watch that grip.
Now this one here makes me very happy because literally last night I proved Conor wrong on this one, but compared to the W123, I don't know compared to the W211. Sorry, S211 definitely has more cargo space than the W211, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
But the 124 has a bigger boot than the 123.
Yeah, by 6 litres. Like, what are you going to put in those 6 litres?
Listen.
Let me ask you something.
Listen. See if somebody said to you, well, but do you want some free bottles of Coca-Cola? Oh, sorry, there's only 6 litres. Would you be like, oh, fuck, that's not enough. Sure, I don't care about that. Or would you be like, fucking 6 litres?
Alright, but if they said to you, do you want 876 or 880 litres? Or whatever it was.
Look at all that space. There's so much room for activities.
Is there room for rear-facing seats?
Which I don't have.
Oh,
You don't have either.
I do. I mean, the car's not on the road, but I can sit in the back of it facing backwards.
Shut up. No, there is so much cargo space in here. It's insane. And even though I've kind of hacked into it by putting beautiful 6x9 Alpine speakers in, There is just so much room. IKEA trips to the tip. If you need to move a double mattress from one house to another because your landlord sold your house because he's a fucking dick, there's room for that too. It's amazing how much space is in here. You could sleep in here if you wanted. If you fold the seats fully flat, I think you can do the same. Yeah, you can definitely do the same.
You can, yeah.
You can lie completely flat. You could turn this into a camper van if you want to live the adventure life and put curtains in your fucking hatchback and put a roof tent on it and be all Instagram fucking, ooh, look at me. This is probably a great car to do it in, and it won't leave you stuck somewhere if you decide to take it. So, you know. No, I thought I'd have another point there. I don't. So,
You know.
cargo space.
Cargo space. Car no go space. Car no fly. Shut up. This is the wrong badge for this car. Anyway.
You're such a fucking dick.
How much does it cost to get you a 3-pointed star? A lot less if you want a 124 than a 123. We did mention that earlier, but we'll talk about the 124s now. I haven't paid any more than 1,500 quid for any of mine.
Hi, I'm looking at most of yours. Sorry.
That's not nice. They're good at heart. They're just not good at any.
No, they have good hearts. They're on the fucking 230 engine.
Debatable. Not the
Debatable. They all have a 230, or
They all do have a 230, but it's some of them are not good. Some of them are very tired. Anyway, that's not for now. These are of course cheaper than those. Those you're talking 5 figures most of the time now. But these you can still pick these up because they're sort of like not quite loved yet, but I think they are getting there because they're getting to that age where they will be desirable. What do you pay for this? 2.5?
Yeah, I paid about 2.5 for this, and I had to drive it home from England. But I got it in exactly the colour and spec and engine that I wanted. So
yes. Now this one needs a wee bit of tidying and things like that. But if you want one that's fairly well mint, I mean, £5,000 would pick you up very nice 124 estate right now. I think. I don't really look anymore because I have too many of them, but I think about £5,000 would do it. This is why old people end up telling you that you can buy a house by not buying coffees because they remember when a house costs £3,000. Like, oh, you get one of them for 1,500 quid. No. Yeah, price of entry a bit lower. You can get a facelift one even cheaper, but I wouldn't do that.
which leads us to, this is a plot twist, price of entry. Because as we said, these are cheaper to get into. Fuck, that's great. These are cheaper to get into. Oh, that's more of a minefield. So here's the thing. There's more of these left that are not looked after, shall we say. Most of these 123s now are, whatever's left is either a parts donor, which you wouldn't even be thinking about buying because it's in bits, or they're in relatively very good condition. 124s, the problem with the Mercedes W124, Mercedes S124, is that these continued on into the 1990s. And if you know about the 1990s and Mercedes-Benz, you will know that quality control kind of went out the fucking window. Cons, you are more likely to get a bad 124 than you are to get a bad 123. In 1993...
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Fuck, I'm good with the dates today. Mercedes introduced the facelift. Now, facelift in most cases is just, oh yeah, they slapped a new bumper and a new grille on it, and to be fair, they did. I didn't like it at first. I warmed to it, maybe because this was mine at one stage. This is actually a good example of one, so told you it'd be nice to do it, Amy. This is actually a good example of one, but we're talking broad scope here. The facelift came out, and then they introduced biodegradable wiring looms. There's a lot of it. No. I thought my car was too low there and I was actually catching the arc. Anyway, there's videos on this, you can go and look this up, but basically the facelift model came out and quality control kind of went out the window a little bit. Now, maybe in countries with better climates or whatever, it's not as bad, but we're in Ireland here, so we have to speak from experience. And unfortunately, the biodegradable wiring looms biodegrade whether you like it or not. The point was that they'd be able to be recycled. The German government brought in an initiative that car companies had to make a certain percentage of their cars recyclable. But the problem with the Mercedes is that it didn't ask you if you wanted to recycle it. It decided, I'm going to start recycling that. So, cheerio. And what would happen is the wiring looms on them, the surround on the wires covering the copper would just disintegrate, and you can literally just peel it all off. And what happens here is, well, positives connect to earth, they short circuit, and you could wake up one morning to find that your masterpiece. I'm gonna have to get like an image of the masterpiece. Your masterpiece Mercedes has decided that I'm just going to catch fire now. Now, there are ways around it, don't get me wrong. People make wiring looms for these, and you can check by going to the ECU in the engine bay, and there'll be like a tag on it with a date, and I mean that, you know, it's a new wiring loom and it should be fine. And a lot of people say that chances are, if the facelift is still here, it's probably had that done. I think at one stage Mercedes were doing them on a warranty, but don't quote me on that. But just personally, avoid it like the fucking plague if you want to really have the 124 experience.
You join us at another 124. Coming
Wagon.
Yeah, another S124. Come out here and take a look at this. Because our next point is rust, which we talked about in 123, and we alluded to this. These cars are a bit more complex. There's more places for them to rust. Check this out.
Check this
out. This is the notorious estate rear window, and the inside of this car is just returning to the earth. Another place these are really bad, as I have found on nearly all of mine, is the rear subframe mounts, which is in there, just down and below there under the rear seats, and they can sort of detach from the car, which obviously isn't very good whenever you're driving somewhere and your rear wheels just disappear from under you. If you are going to buy, and it's a minefield in itself, because they had fantastic underseal applied to them, like to the point where when I got this it looked okay because the underseal was still intact all the way along it, and then you put your finger up and it just goes through the underseal into the cabin, and underneath it just looks like this. It actually looks, because that actually is solid. But yeah, no, that is the big. I mean, this, I've taken the glass out of this sort of half with a view to fixing it. I think I will, because I like it a lot, but it's not going to be easy or quick or pleasant.
Now, we will point out that at some stage we will do a proper comprehensive buyer's guide on both the 123 and the 124, because I mean, we have enough examples of them sitting around that, you know, we can show you areas like this where they're bad. Some people like do a buyer's guide in the magazine and they would say, point here, and like, oh, they rot here, but they're showing you a fucking example of one. It's like, right, well,
I'll show you the horrors. Don't you worry. I would say it's a con on these is a worse point than those, because I do have a rusty 123 as well, but I can fix that a lot easier than I can fix this.
In the words of Avril Lavigne, complicated. Well, she didn't actually say.
She didn't just say complicated. She said, why do you have to make it so complicated? Which is a good question too.
Do you think she was singing it to Mercedes?
Yeah, absolutely. Like 100% believe that right now.
Right now. Okay, so here's the thing. By modern standards, and I know people are going to say, oh, but compared to your average run-of-the-mill hatchback, it's actually quite simple. Because if you just look at, who cares? Right? You're thinking about what's in front of you here. Now, if you're like us and you're used to older stuff and you decided you want to move up to a Mercedes, a classic Mercedes, and you don't know what you want to get, say you've been running around in a 205 or Mark II Golf, something like that, these are much more complicated. Like, they had to be, I guess. I mean, that's what makes them feel so modern. But, shit, I'm going to need tires. Anyway, that's what makes them feel more modern. They've got the 5-point multi-link rear suspension, which is, the sale is in the 190. I think mine's got a 4-point multi-link rear suspension because I don't have an anti-roll bar on the back. But everything about them is just, you need to think that little bit more when you're working on it. And because of that, if you decide you're going to do what I did, I bought this one, and when we took it to Europe last year, I decided I'm going to replace all the rear arms, replace all the bushes. That was the biggest pain in the hole of my entire life. I don't think they've ever been replaced on this. Connor's certainly never done that on his, and I'm sure after watching me do mine, like, I had to go and buy a blowtorch to take them off. The bushes just basically weld everything in place, and it's a fucking nightmare. Once they're done, don't get me wrong, and I have like copper greased the bolts and stuff and make sure I don't have to deal with that again, but to work on compared to your average car of the time, these are much more complicated, and compared to the 123, these are much more complicated.
The last point is that these cars just aren't as appreciated, and we've touched on this a little bit, but these are not, they're not as sought after. People are more likely to tell you just to get rid of them if they're bad, so they're like a bit more throwaway still, but I think that is changing. They're getting to that age. The youngest ones are coming 30 now-ish. The oldest ones will be pushing 40. So they really are achieving classic status, and they will get to the point soon where people are paying silly money to restore them and things like that, especially the high-end ones, especially your 500Es or your AMG. Well, obviously AMGs were always going to be dear and hard to get. But yeah, it's getting to the point where they are going to be worth saving now, which is good. But currently they're just a little bit more of the throwaway stepchild, you know. I don't know who throws their stepchildren away, but that's sort of where they have been for the longest time, because they do. I mean, it's to their credit, they were long lasting enough that they were in modern traffic for a long time. I mean, you can still. We saw one of these yesterday. I see these about fairly often, and not just my own or his. But no, they're on the cusp of becoming proper classics, which really is the time to buy them. Probably.
Okay, look, I know we've been very negative about possibly two of the greatest cars ever built. And the thing is, as we said earlier, everybody's so positive about these cars, and it's about time that there's a video out there that's not so rose-tinted when it comes to what it's like to actually live with these things. You got to deal with the rot, you got to deal with the leaks, you got to deal with the fact that maybe someday you're going to come out to it and it doesn't start. It's very, very rare, but maybe it's going to happen, especially if you've got a biodegradable wire loom. Maybe it'll just catch fire in your yard, who knows? Unless you're going by a really fucking immaculate one, in which case, you know what, fair play, work away. But just be worried that there are some things that can go wrong. But the pros absolutely outweigh the cons. So, the thing now to ask is, which is the right one for you?
Well, only you can answer that. But
That's such a cop-out.
only you can decide. But I'll give you our conclusion. If you want a car that is a classic and feels like a classic, it's that one. If you want a car that is a classic and feels like a modern car, it is that one. The main difference between these is the driving feel. Now, you might really, really like these, and you might really, really like these. So there's going to be personal preference in it. You know, you might love the look of these, or hate the look of these, or hate the look of these and love the look of these. It's up to you. I would say if you can't, to be fair, if you can't store either of them inside, think about storing them inside, because they will break your heart with rust. Both of them will. Yeah, at the end of neither of them are bad.
They both have basically the same pros and cons, let's be real.
Yeah, realistically, they didn't change much in the pros and cons list when they were making these with pros and cons lists.
Did they have a big pros and cons list?
Mercedes were like, look, this car can't be perfect. It has to be bad in some way. So
what are we going to do? This car is too perfect. This car is the masterpiece.
Put the rotten. Yeah, the run out model of these was called Masterpiece because they knew it'd be all downhill from there. And that is my true conclusion. Good night.
So, thank you very much for watching. If you're into classic Mercedes or classic Volkswagen, we are the channel for you. We work on these shit boxes all the goddamn time. It's kind of the bane of our existence.
A little bit, yeah.
Anyway, thanks for watching and good luck.
Good luck.